The amber glow of sunset filtered through Venetian blinds of Ronald Reagan's Hollywood apartment on Fountain Avenue, casting shadows across the hardwood floor where he sat reading Screen Actors Guild contracts. September 1947 found 36-year-old Reagan establishing himself not just as a B-movie actor but as a thoughtful union leader who cared about his fellow performers. His sandy hair perfectly combed, white shirt sleeves rolled up, he worked late into the evening, unaware his life was about to take a dangerous turn that would test every principle he held dear. The phone rang with a sharp, urgent tone. Reagan glanced at his desk clock. 9 o'clock, unusual for Hollywood business calls. He reached for the heavy black receiver, expecting perhaps his agent or a fellow actor with urgent union concerns. "Hello, this is Ron Reagan," he said, his voice carrying that distinctive warmth from radio broadcasting. The voice that responded was cold, measured, with just the hint of an accent. "Mr. Reagan, my name is Viktor Kozlov. I represent certain interests that have been watching your work with great attention. I believe we need to have a conversation." Reagan's grip tightened on the receiver. Something in the man's tone set off alarm bells. The Screen Actors Guild had been dealing with increasing tensions over communist influence, and Reagan had been vocal about maintaining democratic principles. "I'm sorry, Mr. Kozlov, but I don't believe we've been introduced. Perhaps you could tell me what this is regarding." A low chuckle came through the line, devoid of humor. "Oh, we know each other quite well, Mr. Reagan. We've been observing your activities, your speeches at union meetings, your resistance to what you call radical influences. Very interesting, very problematic for some people." Reagan felt a chill despite the warm September evening. He'd been receiving reports about mysterious meetings, actors being approached with suspicious offers, a growing network operating in Hollywood's shadows. Now that shadow had reached his doorstep. "Mr. Kozlov, I'm going to ask you directly. What do you want?" The pause was pregnant with menace. When Kozlov spoke again, his voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. "What I want, Mr. Reagan, is very simple. I want you to understand that your current path is not in your best interests. The Screen Actors Guild is going through changes, and those who find themselves on the wrong side of history may discover their careers have very short lifespans." Reagan's jaw tightened.
His hand moved unconsciously to a notebook where he'd been recording strange incidents that guild members had reported.
"Are you threatening me, Mr. Kozlov?" Another chuckle.
Even colder.
"I am offering you guidance, Mr. Reagan. Tomorrow evening there will be a gathering at the Ambassador Hotel, room 1247. You will attend and listen to what certain people have to say about your union's future direction and your career. And if I choose not to attend..." The silence stretched before Kozlov's voice returned with unmistakable menace. "Mr. Reagan, you have built a respectable career. You have relationships, contracts, a reputation, all surprisingly fragile. A few words in the right ears, some unfortunate publicity about your political associations, questions about your loyalty to progressive causes. You would be surprised how quickly a man can find himself unemployed and unemployable in this town." Reagan's free hand clenched. He'd heard about blacklists circulating, careers destroyed by whisper campaigns, but he'd also heard something else that gave him a different option than capitulating to this intimidation. "I'll consider your invitation, Mr. Kozlov, but I don't respond well to threats." "Then I hope you respond better to reason, Mr. Reagan. Room 1247, tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Don't disappoint us." The line went dead. Reagan stared at the receiver like a coiled snake before setting it back and walking to the window. Below him, Hollywood's light spread like a glittering constellation. Somewhere out there, forces threatened everything he believed about America, democracy, the right of working people to organize without foreign manipulation. But Reagan wasn't just any actor or the naive Midwestern boy some assumed. Radio had taught him to read people, understand voice nuances. Guild work had shown him labor politics complexity and principled leadership importance. Most importantly, he'd been having quiet conversations with someone who had prepared him for exactly this approach. 3 weeks earlier, FBI agent John Sterling, a soft-spoken man in his 40s, had approached Reagan after a guild meeting with a proposition from a spy novel. The Bureau was aware of systematic communist infiltration of Hollywood unions and sought patriotic Americans willing to help document and counter this threat. Sterling had been impressed by Reagan's public statements defending democratic principles and asked if he would serve as an informant. Initially reluctant, secretly reporting on colleagues went against his honest nature. Reagan had listened as Sterling explained the stakes: foreign influence evidence, threats to American institutions, extending far beyond sound stages. Reagan finally agreed, not from adventure desire, but deep conviction that democracy required active defense by ordinary citizens. Now processing Kozlov's call, Reagan realized his training and preparation faced the ultimate test. He dialed Sterling's emergency number. Sterling speaking. John, this is Ron Reagan. I think we've got a live one. 24 hours later, Reagan stood outside room 1247 at the Ambassador Hotel, heart beating steadily but mind focused. Concealed beneath his suit jacket was Sterling's small recording device. In his pocket, a fountain pen that was actually a camera. Most importantly, his mind held clear mission understanding. Gather intelligence while maintaining cover as a potentially cooperative union leader. He knocked 3 firm raps. The door opened immediately, as if someone had been watching. The man who greeted him was tall and thin, with sharp Slavic features and cataloging eyes. This was clearly Viktor Kozlov, his handshake firm but brief. Mr. Reagan, punctual as expected, please come in. The hotel room had been transformed into a meeting space, chairs arranged in a semicircle facing a small table where several men sat with folders spread before them. Reagan recognized 2 faces from guild meetings, actors he'd thought were simply passionate about workers' rights. The realization they were part of something larger sent a chill through him, but he maintained composure. Gentlemen, this is Ronald Reagan, whom we have been discussing. Mr. Reagan, please take a seat. As Reagan settled into the indicated chair, he discreetly activated the recording device and positioned himself for clear pen camera photographs. The conversation that followed would later be described by FBI analysts as one of the most revealing glimpses into communist operations in Hollywood they had ever obtained. Kozlov began with political lecture about socialism's inevitable triumph and cultural workers' important role. But as evening progressed, discussion became increasingly specific and disturbing. Reagan learned about Moscow coordination, propaganda funding streams, specific plans to use Hollywood productions promoting communist ideology to American audiences. Most shocking was revelation of how extensively the network had penetrated entertainment industry, labor unions, academic institutions, even government agencies. Names were mentioned, plans outlined, and Reagan found himself facing a conspiracy far more extensive and sophisticated than he'd imagined. When Kozlov finally turned to him directly, Reagan was ready. Mr. Reagan, we believe you understand now that we represent the future. The old ways, old loyalties are dying system relics. We offer you a chance to be part of something greater, reshaping not just Hollywood but America itself. All we ask is your cooperation in steering the Screen Actors Guild toward more progressive positions." Reagan looked around the room, meeting each man's eyes, and when he spoke, his voice carried the same conviction that would later serve him in campaigns and presidential addresses. "Gentlemen, I appreciate you explaining your perspective, but I have to tell you something you may have misunderstood about me." The room grew quiet, sensing atmosphere shift. Reagan stood slowly, hand moving toward his jacket, and several men tensed visibly. "I believe in America, in democracy, in working people's right to organize freely, without foreign interference. And I believe what you're proposing tonight is not just wrong but dangerous to everything this country stands for." Kozlov's face hardened, voice taking on the threatening phone tone. "Mr. Reagan, I think you misunderstand your position. We're offering a choice, but it's not really a choice. You can cooperate willingly, or find your career ended and reputation destroyed. The decision is yours, but the outcome is the same." What happened next would later be legendary among FBI counterintelligence agents. Reagan reached into his jacket, but instead of producing a weapon or document, he pulled out a small American flag pin from his Army service. He held it up for everyone to see clearly. "You see this? I wore this when I served my country during the war, and I've carried it ever since, as a reminder of what we're fighting to preserve. You think you can threaten me, intimidate me, force me to betray my principles and country? You've made a serious miscalculation." The room erupted in angry voices, several men standing and moving toward Reagan threateningly. But Reagan held his ground, voice rising above commotion with authority that had made him an effective Union leader. "Because you see, gentlemen, this entire conversation has been recorded. Every name you've mentioned, every plan outlined, every threat made, it's all documented. And in about 5 minutes, FBI agents are going to knock on that door to place you all under arrest." The effect was electric. Kozlov's face went white and he lunged toward Reagan, but stopped short when the door burst open, and Agent Sterling entered with 3 other federal agents, badges clearly visible. "FBI. Everyone remain where you are, and place your hands where we can see them." The next minutes were chaos as communist agents tried destroying documents and escaping through the bathroom window, but Sterling's team had anticipated every move. Within 20 minutes, 5 men were in federal custody, and Reagan was providing detailed briefing on everything he'd observed and recorded. That night's Operation Impact rippled through Hollywood and beyond. Intelligence gathered led to identifying and neutralizing an extensive communist network operating in entertainment industry for over a decade. More importantly, it demonstrated ordinary Americans, when properly motivated and supported, could play crucial roles defending their country against foreign subversion. For Reagan, the experience was transformative. He'd faced serious threats to career and safety, demonstrated courage under pressure, proven to himself and others that his principles were non-negotiable. Confidence and skills developed during FBI work would serve him well transitioning from Hollywood to politics and eventually presidency. The communist agents, including Kozlov, were quietly deported after extensive debriefing revealing full Soviet operation scope. Hollywood investigations that followed were controversial, but Reagan's role exposing actual foreign agents helped legitimate efforts removing genuinely subversive influences from entertainment industry. Years later, when Reagan ran for California governor, opponents tried using his FBI cooperation against him, painting him as an informant who betrayed colleagues. But Reagan's response was characteristically direct. "I was proud to serve my country then, and I'm proud of it now. When foreign agents tried subverting American institutions, I chose to stand with America. I'd make the same choice again." The Ambassador Hotel night became a defining moment in Reagan's personal narrative, a test proving his courage and patriotism under challenging circumstances. It also established patterns characterizing his entire political career: deep suspicion of communist ideology, unwavering faith in American principles, willingness to take personal risks defending what he believed right. For the American public, Reagan's story served as a reminder that democracy defense often depends not on grand gestures or famous heroes but on ordinary citizens choosing to do their duty when called upon. In an era when communist subversion threats seemed abstract to many Americans, Reagan's experience made it personal and immediate, showing freedom's battle was being fought not just in distant lands but in American culture's heart. The recording device and photographs from that night were eventually declassified, providing scholars and citizens with unique windows into both communist operations in America and Reagan's early development as a leader who would not compromise with totalitarian ideologies. The courage he showed that September evening in 1947 would echo through his entire career, from Union leader to governor to president, always guided by the simple conviction that freedom is worth any personal risk.